Alright, what's up? Today we're stepping back into the lab to work on the game. So if you did not tune into the last live stream or see the VOD, basically what we have set up right now is, if I can go ahead and hit play. So this is the game window, and that's the scene window. We have a player who can move around, can run. Might be wondering what this little red ball is. It's our cursor. He's going to be used for turning when we attack. And of course, when we move, we can do that, and it will stop our player pretty abruptly. Might have to deal with that later, but for now, it works. We also made it so we have a weapon, a little spatula type of thing, that will change the animation to a sword slash. And from there, that's kind of really what we did. I can change back and forth, and this kind of has some built-in functionality to help with over-scrolling. But yeah, so we also went ahead, and if we go down all the way to our player scene, you'll see where we actually have attached let's see, where did we attach? See, this is where it gets a little confusing. Left or right? Oh, here we go. Middle hand, fingers, thumb. Yeah, weapon slot is in the fingers slot. Yeah, so basically the object, if we really go down here, you can see that there. It is, that weapon slot is attached at the bone. So that enables us to have the object move with the animation, basically. So pretty fluid. I think this is the correct way to do it. You can see in the weapon slot controller, we have none. That's our fist. That'll make it so if the fist is equipped, it'll change our animation to the punch. Else, we are just going to have the animation for the sword slash, because kind of what the weapons are going to be like. Eventually we'll have ranged, but by that time, I'm probably going to want to have bought an A model or made an animation myself for shooting something. This model right here, this man model, was downloaded for free. Just looked up free 3D assets. Very helpful that he came in with all these animations. But yeah, so you can also see in the scene window right here, the collider. We added that. So if we go down here to none spatula, we have a weapon attached script. So basically what you can see is that will turn on the collider. See how it lights up right there? It will turn on the collider in the middle of the animation, and that's going to be useful for if there was an enemy right in front of us. If that collider touched the enemy collider, then we could activate a function on its damageable component to apply damage to that enemy. Alright, so let me go ahead and add the same script onto that. Spatula, we're going to do, let's say, 3 damage instead of just 1 with your fist. Alright, so that's pretty basic. I think that's a very basic way to control the player. I'll go ahead and show you some of that code. Feel free to take this very basic player controller. We're just using a lot of variables and such. So we'll go through the code one by one. This is also just helping me reinforce kind of reinforce my own code that I've written, so can manipulate it easier. So if we want to go through a basic player controller, here we go. So this is the class player controller. This is of course used to control the player. We have some variables that we want to be able to interact with in Unity's inspector. We have a character model and the cursor object. This is for rotation and moving. Movement speed, rotation speed, and attacking rotation speed. This had to be set to a large value for some reason. Then we have some private variables, such as movement vectors, the mouse location, rotation target, our rigid body animator, some booleans for states, a slot controller, and damageable component. Of course, you set these by getting the components. And in our fixed updates, I like to have separate functions controlling everything, so it's a little more readable. So if we are alive within our damageable component, we are handling the movement and handling the rotation. If not, we're just going to trigger our death animation, and that's going to, of course, stop movement and rotation. So handle rotation, this is a little finicky. So this right here is basically controlling it based on how we're moving, WASD. So you can see the movement vectors right here are X and Z because we're in 3 dimensions. Then we are lerping that angle based on where the character's transform Y is, because we're just rotating the Y basically. That will just rotate us around in a circle, which is the desired effect for this game. Then we input that target rotation, and the rotation speed times time.delta time, since it is a physics function, and that will rotate our new Y around. Based on our movement. And if we are attacking, that's where the cursor object comes in handy. As you can see, cursor object position, and then we normalize that direction vector. Then we get the target rotation using the Quaterion's built-in look rotation. And then we rotate towards that character model rotation and the target rotation, and with that attacking rotation speed. When putting in 5, our actual rotation speed, it was super slow, and 500 was the way it works now. So handle movement, this is a little finicky, probably will eventually clean this up, but basically if the movement vector square magnitude is basically just greater than 0, and we're not attacking, then we're moving. If not, then put us to a halt. This on move, these are all Unity input system events. So on move, basically we are getting an input vector from our input, which is the input action callback context. So we're reading that vector2 value and normalizing it. And this is actually, since I'm creating an isometric game, this will account for the isometric camera angle. Depending on which rotation your camera is, this is probably going to be different if you're doing isometric. With my camera angle, I had to play around with this a little bit. I just had to inverse the input vectors and subtract the x from the y, and for our x and for our z, we needed the y plus the x. Of course, when you're in addition, you can just make that a little more readable, probably put that x and y, but I'm okay with that. On look, mouse look equals context.read value. I don't think I actually am using this at all now, since I have that cursor object, so I can actually go ahead and I'll keep that in there just for now. You never know if I need that. Probably won't though, and probably will eventually delete it, but I don't want to deal with that right now. So on sprint, so basically we're just looking for when our input starts, so when it starts, and if we are alive, we just double the movement speed, and set is running to true. But else if the action is canceled, basically how it's happening right now is I'm holding shift down. So once it starts, multiplies our movement speed by 2 and sets our is running state to true. And when it is canceled, i.e. I release my shift key and we're alive, then we just divide the movement speed by 2 and set is running to false. Pretty simple. This is a little finicky because it can be a little. There is some potential edge case problems here, but for right now it's working fine, and I don't see having too much errors in the future. But we would probably have to come and revisit that. On attack, basically, if it's performing and we're not attacking, and we are alive, then we just set a trigger to fire. And this is something we added, I think it was 2 days ago in our previous stream. This is for the scroll bar. just basically scrolling our wheel, having the scroll wheel. We get our input direction, our input vector y. That's just from the scroll wheel. Since it's a vector, it publishes to the y value. So if the action is performed and our scroll direction is not equal to 0, meaning that there's actually a change, and we're not locking the scroll, which you will be able to go through there, and we're not attacking, and we are alive. It's a lot of if conditions, I know, but for right now this is working, and we want to make it working and then get it to somewhere where we like, and then we can go in and try to optimize and make everything a little bit better. So then we're going to lock the scroll wheel, and if the scroll direction is less than 0, meaning I think we're going down, then we're going to just use our slot, using the slot controller that we also made, which is right here. You can see that really simply. We're going to basically just decrease that index value, but we're using an inline boolean. So for instance, if the slot controller index -1 is less than 0, obviously we don't have a negative index in our list, then we're just going to set that to the last index in the list. So basically, since we only have 2 things in the list, if it was 0, then it would just set it to 1. If not, then we actually, just decrease it. And then we do the opposite here. And then if the scroll direction is 0 and we're not attacking, then we're just gonna unlock the scroll wheel, because we went through and actually debug.log and saw how this was performing its action. So basically, in this console right here, basically when you scrolled the wheel, it would go whatever direction, it would publish 2 values, and then go back to a 0 value, no matter what. So that felt safe to do. So here's the weapon controller script. We see that we have a list of weapons here that is actually attached to the weapon slot under as child objects. And here you can see just if our index is not equal to a previous index. So this is just so we don't have to run this for loop over and over again. So once it changes, then basically if our weapon is equipped and the index is equal to 0, then we set a weapon is equipped equal to false. This will handle the changing of weapons, the punch animation basically versus the sword slash, and then we go through the list and enable the correct one and then set the previous index so we don't keep running that all the way through. It's always good to have some forethought a little bit, especially when it comes to performance issues. But yeah. So we'll go ahead and just save that. And on today's list, if I go ahead and let's see, I think it's here. Let me just go ahead and pull this on over. Is the zombie. So we're gonna have to choose some things. This is definitely going to be a little tough because I've never used NavMesh navigation. We'll have to come up with some AI the way it works, working with the NavMesh and basic combat and basic movement. But we want to get this basic zombie set up today, basically. So I do have a free zombie asset that I downloaded, Zombo. He has some animations. Don't really know what's up with his texture, but what we're going to go ahead and do is create another texture, just make him green all the way, just so he's not, gray. So if we go to materials here, you can see I made a red one. I think that was for the cursor object. So just go create, let's see, rendering material. We're going to call this test zombie map. Alright, okay, first of all, we're going to stop playing the game. I forgot we were doing that. So base map, going to probably just make a little green thing. Hello there, Mr. Will. How we doing?
South Park or Warframe this morning. I already got all of my responsibilities done. I got a couple hours to kill.
Very nice. It's up to you. I'd say South Park's probably something that's a little more enjoyable that I would do. But of course that's up to you. I am currently live streaming Game Dev if you want to tune in, by the way. So I will be actively.
I'm tuned in. I'm actively having a conversation with you on it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, but I will actively be narrating what I do. So.
Oh, you're talking about watching you do it?
What?
So you talking about watching you do it?
If you want to, you can, but I'm just saying if
No,
you're saying.
I'm only laughing because I'm playing South Park. I've got my phone up, and now I'm about to have my computer on with you on it.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm about to turn into a fucking super nerd.
There we go. That's not super nerd. That's called being productive. Super productive. Having as many screens as possible in front of you. Just
you would be the one to say that.
Just so you can see everything that's happening. It's not being a super nerd. It's being super productive.
Aware.
Super aware. There we go.
Maybe I'll put a Wall Street Journal on this.
Yeah, just pull up like stocks and stuff. Just like have like flashing
Let
screens.
It just run. Yeah, just let it run.
Yeah, that's how you know you're smart. Okay, so going back to it, we're making the zombie today. So just made that material, so we're gonna go ahead and go back to our other models, and we're just gonna drag our nice little zombo in there. So here is our zombo. If we go down here, we have an armature in our character. I am gonna go ahead and just give that little character the material, so he's green. Looks a little bit better now. Okay, and we're also going to, let's see.
This game is very silly though, Red. You weren't wrong.
What?
This game is very silly.
Oh, it's amazing, yeah. I'm gonna... Is that not the model? Interesting. Oh, don't want to select that on accident. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and scale this guy down because none of my models are actually scaled correctly. Okay, so... I'm guessing the armature is... We don't want to scale down the armature. So we're just going to scale down the top thing. I think 0.35 is what we did for our guy. Let's see, height-wise. I think it should be similar. Yeah. Easy. Okay, so we're gonna need some basic things here. So if we go to player, we have a rigid body and a capsule collider. So that's how we're using rigid bodies to move right now. Physics, it's a little bit easier to use. So we need a capsule collider too because the box will clip because this isn't a solid ground. These are all boxes and it can get a little finicky at the edges.
Dude, I gotta fight all the Raisins employees.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that's always the fun part. Okay, so let's go in here. Add a rigid body. We're gonna want a capsule collider. And we're gonna need to edit that capsule collider up correctly. Like so. Make it a little larger. Because right now I'm not too concerned about having the model actually perfect. It will actually make it a little more enjoyable for the player because it gives it a larger radius to attack. So if you have the model's collisions perfect, i.e. you're using like a mesh collider or something like that, if you punch and you think the player thinks it hits it because we're doing a top-down isometric view like this, it might not show every actual angle and the collider might not actually hit it, but the player might think they hit it and they could get very frustrated. So of course, we want to sacrifice correctness for the player's enjoyment. So yeah. So next up here, we're going to need a damageable component because it's obviously going to be damageable. And we're going to need to make a zombie controller. Forethought here is I know there's going to be different types of zombies, so we kind of want to make it to where it's kind of like a base controller for the most zombies. Of course, some of these enemies might have different functionality that we want to employ. For instance, I know there's going to be some type of range zombie. There's going to be some other variations. But this one, there's going to be variations of this one, so we want to make sure that this component is going to be built around being able, I can just put that on these next ones, just edit some values so that we can have differing variations, but still have the same controller. So we'll make this collider a little bit better. Just wanted to look a tiny bit more reasonable. And let's just go ahead and create a melee
Twitch link.
zombie
I can't find
controller. It is twitch.tv/RedZ Not Dead. So Red's not dead. Alrighty. So we're pulling that on up. For some reason, it's very finicky when you create a new script. And before we actually open that, we want to make sure we go ahead and put down the scripts. I gotta look into when a new script is created that it automatically goes into that script folder, because it gets a little annoying because when you're dragging things around like so, especially when it's attached to objects, it has to... So this is basically this right here, this melee zombie controller is a reference to that script. And of course, when you change locations in your file directory, it has to update that, so that's why Unity kind of pauses there. So yeah, let's go ahead and actually open up the zombie controller. So this is basic mono behavior. We can actually take some things from the player controller. So we're gonna need the character model for sure to handle its rotations, because we don't want to rotate the actual object. Get a little finicky. So let's go where melee zombie controller. So I like doing headers. You can do just variables, and we're gonna do a public game object like that. Maybe I don't actually think this attacking rotation speed's ever gonna need to change. So hopefully this rotation speed will be fine. Next up, we'll definitely need an animator for the zombie. Rigid body, let's see, we'll need a movement vector as well. Probably need some of these booleans. Not the lock scroll, we won't need the slot controller, but we will need damageable. So let's go ahead and start making our private fields. Header. This header will show up in the inspector, but if it's all private variables below it, it actually won't. So this is just making our code a little bit more readable. But if you have like different fields you want to pop up in the inspector and name it something different, then if you use this header in your code, it will pop up like so. Oh, well, look at that. Oh, wait. It will pop up like this. Variables. So if you want to separate stuff in the inspector, then you can add that header field. So header private, we're going to want our private damageable component. We're going to want rigid body, an animator. And
Red coat.
A movement vector. What's up?
go look in the lounge chat.
I can't pull that up actually. Hold on 1 second. Gotta go on no show. There we go. What are you doing? Oh my. You're getting it to write Pokemon fanfics now. That's hilarious.
It's not a fanfic. Read it. It's actually kind of hilarious.
Alright. In the vibrant world of Pokemon, where trainers and their companions shared unbreakable bonds, a dark shadow loomed over the once harmonious Kanto region. Ash Ketchum, the beloved Pokemon trainer who had dedicated his life to becoming a Pokemon master, had fallen victim to an unexpected betrayal. In a shocking coup led by his longtime friend Brock, Ash was tragically killed, leaving the Pokemon world in disarray. Oh god. What have you done? What have you done? Pikachu, Ash Loyal's companion, was devastated. Well, I don't know if I can read this all.
If you get to like the third paragraph, he finds Charizard and links up with him.
Pikachu traveled through forests and mountains, gathering allies along the way. He met other Pokemon who had once fought alongside Ash, each sharing their own grief and anger. Charizard, now a powerful force, joined Pikachu, vowing to help avenge their fallen friend. Together, they forged a team of determined Pokemon, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, honestly. And it gives you a cliffhanger because you ran out of, what's it called?
It says truncated. You can keep going. It'll keep going if you just click the expanding thing.
Alright, well, let's get back to this. So we have Dangible. Okay, those are some basic things.
The second thing, Fred, is a whole nother 5 paragraphs of the actual, just the battle.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm reading it right now.
Alright. So we're not going to need an awake function because I don't think we need to set a instance of the player controller because there will be multiple instances of these melee zombie controllers. So let's go ahead and set up our components. So we need to make sure Zombo has a damageable component. We want, I think, do we want the armature? Okay, actually, no, we don't want to, okay, yeah, I am surely mistaken. We want a zombie component like that, and then put that as the child. So we're actually going to remove all these components, and move that back up. So, yeah, so Zombo is that, and then Zombie is going to have our damageable melee zombie controller, capsule collider, and our rigid body. Okay, and Zombo is going to be located at 0, 0, 0, where our zombie is, which is all the way over there for some reason. So let's go back to 0, 0, 0, which is right over there. So let's actually bring this guy outside, because he's going to be starting outside. Like so. So we got a capsule collider. Let's go ahead and edit this bad boy. Oh, that's a 2D. We don't want 2D. Must have misspelled. Rigid body, and then capsule collider. And we want to freeze our rotations from the rigid body, because I do not like handling rotations using physics. I mean, that might change. I don't know yet. Reference that like that. Let's edit this capsule collider to get back to how we had it. Actually dock this game up here so we can go back to here. Get a little bit easier to see. Side it. Make it a little smaller. Uh-oh. Sometimes it's a little finicky. Let's go back here. Zombie. Grab. Come on now. Press edit. It's a very small little box right there. Just like that. Then we're going to bring this bad boy up to his feet. Make sure it's a little flush. Don't want him floating. Alright, cool. Capsule collider's back. Go to rigid body, capsule. Alright, cool. Save that. Alright, now we're back to the script. So, what we're going to need is, of course, some components. So our damageable is going to be get component damageable. RB is going to get component, and our animator is get component animator. And that is going to be in children. Of course, it would help if I could spell children. Alright. Real quick, let me do this. So let's just add an R. Let's see how we do this. Yeah, animator's there. We'll add an animator. Alright, so let's think this out. We are gonna make a melee zombie. So we have all our components. We have an animator on our mesh, our basically our object that has child's armature and the actual model. Then we have our actual zombie model, our zombie object, which has our damageable script, our melee zombie controller script, a rigid body, and a capsule collider. So if we go to our script, we have all those variables right here, and we need to actually use them. So what do we need to do for an enemy? So we're going to need AI for navigation, a way to track the player when in radius of the player we want to attack. We want to attack. So that's the basic AI, so we need to flush that out. Now we have that idea, we can start flushing that out in the most basic ways. So there's definitely a lot of options you can do, but just kind of find the option that works best for you. So I know that Unity has this navigational system, AI navigation, like so. We have a nav mesh, height mesh, only selected, path polygons, path query nodes, and show neighbors. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, well I had to deafen myself real quick. Will, you there?
What's up?
I said I had to deafen myself, so if you're talking, I probably couldn't hear you.
Decent time, like Tony Stark died for.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is the first thing we want to work? So we now, if we go to our zombie, we have damageable, health, max health, and is alive. We have our script to our character model, our movement speed, and our rotation speed.
For a heart of gold. What are you guys doing?
I'm working on the game, live streaming it.
You want to go sail the seven seas with me, Pat?
Oh, did you already play more without me last night?
Me
We
and Will
played for
did.
like half an hour with Tim, trying to show him how to play, because we figured we might as well teach as we can go.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
You learn like the sail angles and how to like do stuff on the ship.
I'm not on my Xbox right now. I'm on my phone. I just woke up, so I gotta.
Okay, word.
I'm watching. I got one screen watching Red. I'm playing South Park, and then I just did like a bunch of laundry, dropped off dry cleaning, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Well, yeah.
Very nice.
The thing is, I blacked out, and I'm at my parents' house right now, so I need to.
Oh,
I need
nice.
to walk my car, which is at Jimmy's, and then. But I'm also
Right.
waiting.
Hey, I'm gonna go. I'm still working on the game here, so I'm gonna go on the game dev channel. But I'll be done in like an hour or two.
I'll stop talking. You can stay in here, Red. I'm about
Just
to.
F it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Alright,
We're not doing anything.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna go to working on this. I'll be done in like an hour or two, and then be able to play.
Watching you.
All right. Sweet.
Watching.
All right. Now that is we can focus. So we have our melee zombie with our movement speed, rotation speed, health, and max health. What is the first thing we want him to do? So first thing we probably actually want him to do is navigate towards the player. So we gotta figure out how to do that. So we have a location of the player. So if the player is in range of the zombie, then we probably want the zombie to move towards the player. So how do we accomplish that? Well, first we're going to want to create an empty game object, and we can call this aggressive zone, like aggression, or aggressive zone, or let's see, aggro zone. And this is actually going to have a collider in it. So we'll make a capsule collider. Simple as that. And we're gonna set this as trigger, so we don't obviously want this interacting with the world at all. And basically, this is just whatever range this expands out to is when the player needs to, like, if the player steps into that, then the zombie is going to path towards that. So let's make this 10. So that's not too shabby of a range. I know specifically for this game that I'm going to have the zombies pathing towards a object that they're going to want to destroy. So having it at this range might in the future actually be too big, but for now we're going to want to do that. So let me also not do that. We can move this object to 0, 0 with correspondence to the actual, like, the zombie, but I think it would be a little bit better if this aggro zone was kind of in the middle. So, like, that the actual circle is at kind of waist level. Alright, so now we have this aggro zone. I want to go ahead and tag this as aggro zone. That'll be useful for later. Actually spell this right, you know. So let's go ahead and add, oh yeah, misspelling that. Let me go ahead into here and delete that. Oh, untagged, add tag, I'm gonna remove that. Aggro zone. Go here, we're gonna go, actually spell that as aggro zone. Tag that as aggro zone. So we're going to be able to basically interact with some of the things. It's very good to tag and have layers. So we're going to layer this as, let's see, detection layer. This will be the detection layer. So that will be nice. So set that to detection layer. So any of, like, our detection colliders we probably want to exclude from some of the colliders. So for instance, if we need to close this map. If I go up to here into our weapon slot, if we go to the weapon slot controller, you can see how, actually that's not it. Attack animation. I don't know if we're actually interacting with any enemies damageable yet. Oh yeah, we are. And weapon. And of course it's not going to load. That's always fun. Let's put that bad boy up. Yeah, so the mask has to be player, so we already accounted for having the weapons, the correct layer in the collision. But this same instance is going to have to be used for other things. So it's good to layer your objects and tag them. It's very useful. Unity has a good system for building that, but you also got to make sure you can manage it. Hello, this is it. Sorry, I just saw your chat. I'm just currently working on the game. Feel free to interact. I'll try to look over whenever. Okay, so let's go back to our Melee Zombie controller. So in our update function, since we're gonna do physics, when you're operating with physics, you want to do probably a fixed update. This calls is called at a fixed frame rate frame. So if you do not know how games work, basically each second will contain a good amount of frames. So this is, you know, your FPS, frames per second. So basically over time, frames will occur. So if we go into our game, we can see how this will work. So frames control our game. They are occurring all the time. This is also how videos and even sometimes audios work. But everybody's computer can have a different frame rate. So when you're working with physics, you want it on a fixed frame rate. So for instance, if I'm running like this on someone's PC that might have a worse CPU or whatnot, the amount of frames they get are going to be different. So they could be going slower than I am. So you obviously want the game to be kind of fixed so that everybody gets the same experience. So using this fixed update is usually the best way and the best practice for working with physics. So now that we have that established, we're going to want to, let's see, we're probably going to want to get access to our trigger. So in aggro zone, we're probably going to, let's see, we're going to add a, I don't want to call this aggro zone, because this is going to be used on a lot of, let's see, a lot of things. For instance, any enemy that we have is probably going to have an aggro. You need to have delta time between ticks. Yes, you are correct. So if we go over to the player controller, you can see in the rotation, we actually have delta time. That will, of course, help with the physics. If you don't have delta time in there, it won't be kind of fixated. So for instance, this rotation speed that you see, time.delta time, basically what it is the time between ticks, I believe. So it kind of averages out. So like your computer could have a different time from 1 to 2 ticks than I do, but time.delta time will multiply this value by like the difference between those. So if rotation speed is set to 5 and time.delta time is off, it could multiply it by 0.9 to keep it consistent with the time scaling. So it kind of smooths everything out. And that's very important with working with physics. But fixed update is another good thing that you can do to help account for all of that. Because you never know what could happen. I'm trying to build a game for also that could run on low-end machines as well. So you want to try to optimize as you go along. Of course, right now you just focus on really kind of getting things implemented and little optimizations over here and there. And then once you get a bunch of things set up, then you can really take a step back and start optimizing. So I'm also learning here as well. I'm not by any chance a professional. I've watched a good bit of videos and done some courses on game dev and such, but hopefully you can learn along with me. So you'll be seeing me looking up documentation and Stack Overflow questions. I'm trying not to use AI. I have a little short about using that. It was going to be helpful. Ask it some questions, but never use it to solve your problems. But yeah, so here we're going to want to access the trigger, and if the trigger is activated, then move towards object that was triggered. Okay. So what we were just doing is setting up that AggroZone script. So the way I have done this in the past, so this is going to be my first commercial, kind of commercial game that I'm really working towards, but I have worked on several other games in the past that are just kind of like projects. I highly recommend you do basic projects as well. I have a little video on the channel about getting started in game dev if it's something you're very curious in. It's not going to really give you any, like, it'll just help you point you in the right direction. It's not going to explain very much on how to do things. Yeah, okay. I got you. Yeah, I'm learning as we go as well. I'm not by any chance a professional. In fact, you could, for all I know, be a better programmer than I am. But I'm just going to try to talk through everything, and hopefully together we can kind of find some things out as well. So here, the way I'm handling it is using an AggroZone for the zombie. I have the game actually running right now. I didn't even realize that. But yeah, so here is his AggroZone. So basically, using this AggroZone script is using Unity. There's a thing called on trigger enter, and they'll get a collider. So we got to be careful about this because we want a layer mask pointing to what kind of objects we want to filter out, or basically filter in. So we'll have on our start, we'll set mask equals not to get component, but layer mask. You can actually go ahead and get a mask using strings. In the future, I'm probably going to consolidate all these strings into a file just for easy manageability, and don't have to type out the string every time. I could just type in like common strings dot that, and it will automatically publish it. But it's up to you how you want to do it. Just for some tutorials and such, that's a lot of it. A lot of it is really, if you're going to go learn Unity, you're going to see a lot of tutorials out there. In fact, I've gone through a bunch of them. Just take the snippets that you like that they do, and you can apply it to yourself. In fact, I never saw people using get layer mask like this. They actually would drag it in, but I think programmatically getting a layer mask sometimes could be more beneficial. But you never know. So here, let's go see the mask we want. The only mask we really want for this trigger to ever interact with is our player. So that's characters. So we're going to want a layer mask of characters. But also, another thing we're going to want to do is, this is just for further optimization. Some of it might not actually even do things, but let's see if other, or see how I do this earlier because I don't remember off the top of my head. It's in one of these scripts here. Maybe attack animation. No. Weapon? Yeah, here's his layer mask. So if other layer equals mask. Okay. So if other dot game object dot layer equals mask. So basically this will take the layer that it is in, the collider, what it's colliding with layer, and compare it to the mask that we just set. And another thing we want is to other dot game object dot get tag, I think it is, or dot tag is equal to, we're going to want this as player, because we only want this AggroZone to interact with the player. So basically, once we get that, we can actually get reference to the game object, which we might pass up. So if, what's the best, now I'm trying to think what's the best way to componentalize this, because we want this to be reusable. The AggroZone, we probably want it to be reusable on all of our types of enemies. But, of course, you can only do so much with a melee zombie controller. And there's probably ways where I could even like make a zombie controller and then make some child classes for that, but right now at my skill level I am more comfortable and just kind of flushing it out like this, and then maybe coming back one day and trying to make it a little bit easier and more componentalized. So once we get the the player entering that zone, we're going to, let's see, set a target for movement in our parent object. So what we can do, I'm trying to think what's the best way to do this. I mean, obviously what we can do is have references to each type of enemy we have, and then find that component, basically. So, let's see. We're gonna want probably a, let's see, private game object target. And we're gonna have a public game object target, just a getter and setter. Like so. Just, this is one of the things I like doing for variables. Because I don't want this target to actually be populated in the inspector, just in case I actually drag something in there and it causes some funkiness. But I do want other scripts to be able to target this, or to be able to target this and edit it. So that's where using these getter and setters like this will not populate in the inspector. So yeah. So let's see. So now I'm thinking if we really do want to componentalize this, maybe actually making the zombie controller for basics is actually going to be good. So we'll have a melee zombie controller with target. I'm going to go ahead and make this inherit zombie controller. Should be like attachable to an enemy class. Yeah, kind of like how, kind of exactly. So we have this target right here in this controller. And basically we're going to want this aggro zone to interact with, its parent, object, which is going to tie it to that script. So we're going to have that target, and then basically using the target's transform versus the melee's transform, we're going to send a kind of a rigid body, like move position, towards that position. Right now, that's going to be very basic, and in fact, the first thing I can think about is once we start getting walls, that's where we're going to have to start working with nav mesh and like navigation. For instance, one thing I've implemented in 2D games is the A-star pathfinding algorithm. But that's creating a bunch of nodes, and that actually caused some pretty big performance issues, because if you create the object and try to pathfind to your player, if you have a crap ton of these zombies, which maybe in the future I might have a bunch of zombies like that, then it will cause a good bit of lag because it's constantly searching that out for each zombie. One way I found around that, because I tried to make a 2D tower defense game before this one, just like learning stuff, wasn't going to publicize it, made some very basic stuff with that, was actually just predefining the pass it could take, but that's something I don't want to do. I definitely want to use this nav mesh to just basically paint kind of where they're allowed to walk. So for instance, so that's a good question. So the pathfinding, A-star is creating a path from nodes, where in the update function, for this, we're actually just going to, here, let me undo that so we don't have errors. So if you look at the player, we have handle movement, and you can see rigid body, linear velocity is the movement vector times movement speed. I probably should add time.tilde time in there, but it's working, so I don't want to play around with it too much. So basically, what we're going to do is, instead of just applying the linear velocity, I think we can just go ahead and access like rb.position. And then we're going to use kind of a function to get the positioning between the player. So it's going to basically just collapse onto the player like this. And the nav mesh, the real reason I'm talking about using the nav mesh right now is because we have these walls and such. So for instance, if you're making a very basic game without any like collidable walls and such, like let's say just like a classic like shoot 'em, where you shoot out and zombies just try to come in, you can just take the transform and like do a movement function towards it. Let me try to think. I think it like lerping it, that's for angles usually, but I think usually if I just go in here and do like RB or like vector 3.move towards, like that, we could collapse those in there with a built-in Unity function. And this will give us a vector to basically put our positioning at for that zombie, and it will smooth it out as well for us. I'm trying to do this a lot off the noggin, just it helps you learn, really. But sooner or later, I will be inevitably grabbing some documentation up here and looking into how other people have done it. But yeah, so let's see if we can try to figure this out by ourselves real quick. Help kind of strengthen those skills. Alright, so we have this. So what I was thinking about doing is making a base component zombie controller, because we're going to have melee zombies, we're going to have range zombies, and probably some other types of zombies in the future. But we basically want each one of these controllers to always have a target, always have these things kind of in there. So what I'm trying to do is, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and make a new script. Because, let's see, where are we looking at? Visual scripting? No. Usually there was just a create script. Interesting. Well, I'll just go here and just create a new zombie script. Zombie controller. And this is actually going to be a... Not that. Why... We're going to do a script. Zombie controller. So this is just going to create the script for us, and I'm actually going to remove this component. This is just going to be the parent class. So we need some protected things in here. We're going to pull these up side by side. Okay, so what we're going to have here is our variables. We're just going to literally copy and paste this over and make that public. We're going to do this protected. All these privates to protected now. So basically what that is doing, I don't know if you've worked with C#'s object-oriented nature, and in fact, don't quote me on this because I could be completely wrong, but the way I understand it is basically if these were privates, even the child script wouldn't be able to interact with it, so we want protected. Basically, it's just going to, any child object can have now access to this. Why'd you make a target into the property? So this target, that's how we're going to grab the position and the movement. So we're going to be handling the movement in the zombie controller script. So for instance, let's just make a protected void function, and we're going to do handle movement, just like I did in the player. And we don't even need anything like that because we have our movement vector right here. But we want to basically just, for pseudocode purposes, we're going to do, let's say, vector 3 target position is equal to target dot transform dot position. But if we go into the way we are actually getting that target, I mean that you have a protected variable behind the public property. Oh, yes. So this is just kind of a structure I saw in some tutorials. So basically in Unity, if you make anything public, for instance, if I go here, you can see it's interactable in the inspector, like this. So that's actually very useful for a lot of things. For instance, I'll be dragging the character model in here. So that's how I actually get reference to the character model for the player, as well as the cursor object. And I can actually customize these. So everything in the inspector will actually take priority over the script. So, for instance, in here you can see in the player controller, up here, this is set to 5.0. But in here, this is actually set to 2.5. So the movement speed actually in-game is 2.5. So it overrides kind of what's in the script. So by doing so, like this, we have our protected game object, and this public target object that other scripts can interact with, but it's not in the inspector. If you don't want to edit and make the setter private, that's not a bad idea, but we actually do want to edit it, because basically how we're doing this is, so if this other.gameObject.layer is the mask, and that's the player, basically what we're going to do is get zombie, let's say we need to get reference to the zombie controller. So I have a private zombie controller. We're going to call this zombie controller. And in the start, we're going to get access to the zombie controller, and that's going to be a get component in parent, because this object is a child of, excuse me, the zombie object. And so now we're going to have access to the zombie controller, and if we actually go to the melee controller zombie and actually get this to inherit a zombie controller now, we actually don't need any of these because this is already going to be there. So on start, we basically get references to all these objects, so we're going to want to like that. So now we have a reference to the zombie controller. So what we can do here is get zombie controller dot target is equal to other. So using our aggro zone in a different object, we're able to interact with that other.game object. Yeah, so it's a little finicky. It's definitely interesting working with some of this stuff, but I think it's pretty cool how Unity has everything set up. Other game engines will do things differently. If you're actually looking into game development at all, I highly recommend checking out Godot as well. Unity is a corporation's product. You get licensed, you have to pay if you make a certain amount of money on your game. Godot is completely free and open source. I think it has its own scripting language called GDScript, which is derivative of Python. I tried using it. Yeah, absolutely. I actually was trying to make this game in Godot, but I've had too much experience with Unity, and I wouldn't say too much experience. I would say every game I've ever fully fleshed out has been in Unity. Yeah, because Godot, it picked up traction, because actually Unity, I was actually in my game development class when this happened. Unity put out, in the middle of the class, they put out some, changing to their pricing, basically saying you had to have... Yeah, exactly. You had to have, a crazy amount of royalty, or, a 5% royalty on everything, which... I think that was it, which was completely out of nowhere. They got really greedy. I know the CEO had to step down and whatnot, that they, and all that. They have reverted their pricing model. I mean, you can't ever trust big corporate structure like that. You know, that's their job. Their job is to make more money. That's why those entities exist. But they really pissed off a lot of people. So Godot really picked up a lot of traction in there, and it also coincided with the release of, I think, Godot 4 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. but it kind of like the things kind of aligned up, and everybody started looking at Godot. But still, Unity is a very good way to start out. They give grants, yeah. Well, it's definitely very interesting if you start really digging into the corporate world. Like, every major corporation has some type of open source project, but then every other, and then the same corporations have all these closed source, like, pushing things. Like, these gigantic entities, it's a very complex structure when you really look at it. So, Unity, for me, their pricing's back to normal. It's a very useful tool. As a solo game developer, I don't even have, like, I'm just starting out. So, for instance, like, I'd have to pay someone to make assets for me and all of that. So worrying about Godot and having some already established communities and trying to really learn things myself, that would kind of dampen a lot of the things. I kind of know some of the basics of Unity and interacting with like so, and some of the predefined things, so I can go ahead and implement that and build around it. Of course, once I get really far into development, it's going to all be the same. It's going to be some really hard-hitting stuff, but I've kind of, on this project, picked it up and put it down a few times, and to actually hold myself accountable, I started streaming it. That's kind of where the stream comes from. And it's really helped out, because it's really helpful to actually talk through your programming. You kind of start clicking the things together. But just Unity with its structure and how well-versed I'm in it, not well-versed, I don't think that's the right word, with my experience with it, I didn't really want to branch out and go to Unreal or Godot or whatnot, just because I'm more comfortable with it. And it's okay. Yeah, it's really, my philosophy is when you're making games like solo and that, don't worry about the pricing structure and all that. Like, really focus on having fun making it. That's kind of really what you really need to, think about, yeah, the money is okay and all that. It helps out with a lot of things, but at the same time, you want to use something that you're comfortable with. You want to do something, for instance, Godot, I'd have to pick up GDScript, which is derivative of Python, which is very simple, but I'm more comfortable with C#. I've used it quite frequently. I started programming, actually, in Java, which it's a little similar. But yeah, so let's get back into this. So, as I was just saying, we can get the target position. So we set that target in the zombie controller like so. So the aggro zone will actually set our target in the zombie controller to the game object that interacts with this aggro zone. So let's see, this is not game definition for target, not accessible. You missing a using directive or assembly reference. So yeah, this is also new territory for me as well, because I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing here. So let's go into here. So it does not have a target. So let's try. Yeah, it does. It's right here. That's it right there. Missing a using directive or an assembly. Okay, so that error goes away. Confused me a little bit. So if I am correct in my programming knowledge, then since this melee controller is a child object of zombie controller, then it actually should have access to target. So if I just type in target like this. Yep. Alright, so this is, of course, going to be high-level zombie controller. And, in fact, I don't even think I want this handle movement to be implemented in this basic zombie controller. Basically, it's just a class defining everything, and that from there we're going to derive other child objects. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and delete that. And now we have access to the target from the aggro zone. And this is going to be very interesting because I'm doing all this and I actually have no idea. So actually, there's a good way to test this. So right now we have an aggro zone that sets it to the other, and that should be set to the target. So in here, what we're going to do is just literally do a debug.log. So in Unity, we use debug.log instead of console.writeline or something. And we're going to just do target is equal to, and then do a plus game, or target. We'll just do a target. Or target dot name. That'd be okay with me. So let's see if this works. Because if not, we're going back to the drawing board. And this is part of the fun. Okay, so not set to an instance, and that's also not set to an instance. Okay, so what we're gonna want is, because obviously it's not set because there's nothing. So we're gonna do if target does not equal null, just so we don't see a spam of it. And we're also gonna want to do a debug.log to see how this is working, because I am generally curious if the zombie controller works like this, because I feel like it should, because technically this is driving from zombie controller, so it maybe might be seen as zombie controller. Maybe I need to make this as an interface. This is where I might actually even go ask like ChatGPT like this question, just to point me in the right direction, not to solve my problem. So zombie controller, let's see if this is ever set. And we're also gonna do debug.log. Let's say object colliding is going to be equal to the other GameObject.name. So just kind of checking out, kind of figuring out how this is working. It's part of the process. I haven't ever released any commercial products yet, so this is kind of also going to be me finicking around and finding stuff out, but felt comfortable in a place. I was able to get that player set up pretty quickly. So yeah, let's just go ahead and walk this way. So our aggro zone is never, that's probably why. Yeah, that's definitely a way to do it. Also, another thing that I'm curious about is why that was publishing, because there's actually never an instance of the aggro zone, because I didn't have the script attached to the aggro zone. So, update is a void function. Doesn't need a return value. So simply just checking to see if it's null, and then debugging.log will do the trick. That's why we didn't see so much. But, of course, it doesn't help to see if we didn't even have the aggro zone equipped. So I'm now very curious, where did I equip this aggro zone? Because I had to have made it somewhere. Oh, no. Okay. Apparently, I didn't have a aggro zone script somewhere. So we're just going to add that. Maybe I removed it or something and see how that works. So nothing's happening because we should wait till that, and still no aggro. So that means this is a trigger. Go here. So on trigger, when a collider other enters the trigger. So if other tag equals to player. So actually what we're going to do is I want to debug. This is going to post a lot of stuff, but we're going to do collision is equal to, and we're going to just do a other.gameObject.name just to see what collisions are happening. I will say I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of colliders pop up here. Actually, I know one way to do this. So if other.gameObject.layer does not equal, and we're just going to simply do layer mask dot get mask, and I have an environment layer set up like so. Because basically all these things, like all the world, they're all componentized. Like if we not have the game going, if we click this, these are all going to have colliders tied to them. Just part of the asset pack that I am using was componentized like that. So here we go. Let's see if this is working out for us. Okay, yeah, we can see a bunch of things like that. And there we go. Player, collision, player, right there when the trigger entered. So that means that is working. So then this means that this should be publishing. But this also doesn't seem to be checking correctly. So let me try deleting this mask and other tag is just equal to the player, because that should be what the tag is. Okay, so we go here, tag is player. So now we're not going to see any debugs. We should see actually a debug. Okay, there we go. Target is now set to player. Perfect. So that is actually perfect. So that means that this melee controller is actually acting as that zombie controller. Nice. So now the target's getting set to player once he exits. So what we can also do is in the aggro zone, we could do an on trigger exit. Yeah, there is a few ways. So you saw me trying to do layers. You can set up a player layer and make sure the other is like that. Its game object is on the same layer as that. But I have a characters layer set up, and I also know that the zombie is going to be put into characters like so. I'll just go ahead and do that. So I like using the tags when it comes to using player objects, but in the future, actually, I might not use characters here. I think now you're making me have some forethought. I appreciate it. We're going to add a layer, and we're going to call it aggressive NPCs. Aggressive NPC as that layer. Because we might... In the forethought, we might have some scripts that want to apply to every, like, aggressive NPC, so that's where we can use a layer instead of a tag, because what we're going to want for a tag for this is when it's very specific to this thing, and we'll do a melee zombie. So basically that's kind of like its name to me, because its name corresponds to this, but for instance, if I was to copy and paste a zombie, it'd be zombie 1. So you don't want to check it by its name. In case you have any duplicates. In fact, in one of the games, one of the renditions I made that was actually 2D instead of 3D here, I actually had the player spawning from a script instead of it already being in the scene, so that could cause a little finicky. So there's a lot of different ways you can definitely go about it. Just for now, I think just making sure that the tag is equal to the player is going to work for me, because that's the only thing I want the target to be set but for now at least. I will probably come back and actually change this, because for instance, this target is not going to be just the player. It's eventually going to have some type of goal that it might path to, so we don't want the zombies just standing there doing nothing. We want it to kind of walk towards its goal, so kind of defending something. But if the player gets into the aggro zone, the zombie's like going to prioritize the player. So it's kind of like gonna require the player to have that kind of in mind. And that's where we get to, once we kind of put everything together, we can increase those aggro zones per things. One thing that's really cool with Unity is using prefabs. All the game engines will have these. So if I go into prefabs, we go to player, I can actually add this prefab as a player. In fact, let me make sure I override this and apply all. So this prefab, I could drag this player in like that, and it's the exact same object. So the goal here is to actually, it's a good call, let's go create a folder, and we're going to call this aggressive NPCs. And we're going to go ahead and drag that zombie. So I can now just drag that zombie out there, and it would have the exact same functionality. So yeah. So now we have the target. So for instance, if target does not equal null, what I can actually do here is get that target dot game object, and we're gonna get its transfer dot position. So target's position is gonna be we're just gonna debug that real quick. And so what we're gonna see here. Alrighty. And also, I'm probably going to have to go back and redo a bunch of this because of using the AI. But for instance, if we go to the target's position, you can actually see this change. Yeah, that wouldn't help if we're not at the bottom. You can actually see this change as I'm moving. So that's coming from this zombie's controller. So what we can do is, instead of actually debugging it, and now this is where we're getting to using the physics, so I'm going to actually move this to the fixed update. It might be as simple as, in this, to setting the R, let's do, if that target is not equal to null, because we're going to have a move towards function here. We're going to do rb.position equals to vector3.move towards. And so the current. Yeah. ChatGPT, that's the thing. It came out while I was still at university. But oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I have a weird philosophy kind of when it comes to AI. A lot of people, they think it's going to replace programming. And in 20 years, maybe it will replace some mid-level engineers. But the hype right now, it's going to break a lot of things once people get greedy and start implementing it. It's very good for pointing you in the right direction. For instance, like, if I Google a question, you're going to get a bunch of different answers and links. Basically, it's just going to consolidate that answer into something and give you an idea. But once you start asking it to actually code for you, basically, like, if I asked it to do this, it might be able to do this. But if I asked it to, like, implement the whole script, I'm not going to have any idea how that works. I'm going to go in and just expect it to work. It probably won't work, and then I have to go in there and debug, or start using it to debug. And I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of that thing, because you can use it, get code in 15 minutes, you're going to spend 3 hours trying to work with this. But instead, what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of just going off my knowledge base, and eventually, I'm also not going to try to use videos. I'm going to just basically, so, like, for instance, if I want to do, I would type in Unity 3D, moving a object towards the player. And first thing we see is this AI generation, and it's going to tell us vector 3 move towards. But there's so many posts in Unity discussion, Stack Overflow. Oh, yeah, I completely agree, because that's the thing, like, once you start making it generate its own code, and, like, you release that crappy code, it's going to start training on that crappy code even more, and develop even more code like that. I mean, I can't say I'm a big expert I actually did some research into neural networks during my time in college, but I never got into like large language models because it was, you know, all fresh. And in fact, if you're enjoying this stream, this lab section, I kind of have this channel broken down into the lab and the lounge. The lounge is going to be me playing video games with my buddies, just hanging out. That's going to be a little more, probably a little more raunchy. We're going to be like a little more, you know what I mean, I hope. But the lab is going to be basically me sitting here, either doing game dev, we're going to look into different technologies. Like one thing I'm thinking about is trying to learn Rust. If you check out the YouTube channel, I have something on microcontrollers. We might work with microcontrollers, like making some things interact with the world. I'm just kind of using it as a way to help people learn alongside me. I want to develop as a aspiring engineer. And if you guys want to stick around. Should make a Discord server? Yeah, absolutely. I was planning on getting around it, but you're actually like the first guy I'm actually interacting with. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. I'll definitely make a Discord server for the community. I'm trying to build a community of people like-minded who want to build things, are passionate about software, not people who are going to bully people, like post hateful things on the internet. Just kind of like something we can work towards together. That's something I'm definitely going to set up in the future. Nice little community Discord. But I will say I started this channel a week ago, and it's been a lot of fun, so we're getting still things set up. For instance, this camera is 720p, like, it's not the best, and I'm still figuring out how to live stream correctly, and, like, my microphone isn't even the best, but slowly but surely we're going to build up, hopefully, a community, and hopefully you can be a part of it. Hope you stick around. But yeah, let's get back into making this zombie move. So what we have is a reference to its transform position. So basically, we're using this rigid body. Or actually, I'm going to pass in the rigid body that position. So you just move towards function. If we read the just hover notes. We calculate a position between the points specified by current and target, moving no farther than the distance specified by max distance tells us. Oh, wow, dude. That's crazy. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I hope everything's going well for you. But I appreciate you sticking around. I definitely will make a Discord if there's ways you can join that. Definitely, I hope you can join that, start discussing with things. I hope in where you are that you can develop things and make things, because that's really important for people like me, I guess. But I hope you can also, however it is, just I hope you're happy. That's kind of where it boils down. But yeah, yeah, also, yeah, the stream quality, I mean, it's okay right now, but I'm running on actually a pretty old computer, a workstation computer, so there's definitely some things I'm gonna start trying to upgrade, the more and more I do this, but I appreciate you sticking around. So let's get back into here. So move towards, this is gonna calculate the position between points by the current and target, moving no farther than the distance specified. So basically what we're going to do is just input our RB.position, which is a vector 3. And then we're going to get our target dot transform dot position. And that might work. Okay, maximum distance. Distance move current per call. Oh, per call. So this is actually going to think our movement speed. So here we're going to do movement speed times time dot delta time. So this is actually, that's how it's going to like collapse in using that target location. So let's see if this is going to work. So right now, nothing. And there we go. Yeah, he's moving towards the player, and I can run away, and he'll follow me. So obviously he's going a little quick. I think that's because I have the movement speed set to 5, which is actually the same as this run speed. Obviously, the animation's not working, but that is some basics. But for instance, what I want to show you is why we're going to need AI nav meshes and such, is I can go like this, or not get stuck in the corner. I can go through these doors and go behind, okay, go behind like that. So that's why using kind of the move towards vector is not really the best for our purposes. So eventually we'll have AI navigation using nav meshes and such. But yeah, so we'll go ahead. I'm going to keep that like that. I'm actually going to go in here and set this base down to 2 and rotation speed to 5. Go here. If we serialize field, you can see character model, movement speed, and rotation speed. So that is acting as a zombie controller. So using it kind of as a component base like that works out. So let me set this to 2. So he's a little bit slower than just basic walking, because he's going to be our very simple basic zombie that we're going to test everything out. So next on the list we got basic movement. Set up like that. I'm okay with that being our basic movement for now. So next up, so instead of having this as a fixed update, I usually like to do a private void handle movement function here. This is how I handle the player's controller, and instead, this is just going to break things down, because eventually you're going to have some more complex movement. Instead, we're just going to call it as a handle movement function. I'm going to private void handle rotation. So actually, rotation was one of the things I kind of struggled with a little bit, but luckily I was able to get this for the player set up. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a direction and a target rotation, like so, and then we're going to rotate towards that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and copy this is attacking. Little functionality, go in here and copy and paste that. So not the cursor object, what we're actually going to want is the target. Yeah, absolutely. Project Zomboid, Hades, all those isometric games, it's kind of an inspiration. I'm not going to get too much into exactly what the game's going to be. It's kind of something I'm fleshing out as we go along. I've written a GDD, have some basic ideas implemented, but it's not that I don't trust you or anything, but this is going to be a VOD, and all it takes is 1 out of 100 people who might have something set up already and take the idea. This is also something that someone was getting on me about, because I actually did post a little short about kind of a glimpse into it, and she's like, yeah, you can't do that, they're going to steal your idea. And I was like, okay, I'll take it down. But that's okay for now. So basically what we're going to do is we got to Charvit. So this actually might work right away. So we have a character model object reference. Yeah, we have that character model. So now the zombie should rotate towards the player. This is the same function that required the insanely large rotation speed, so that's something I might have to. So for instance, what I'm talking about is that is 500 as a rotation speed, but me doing this is 5 as a rotation speed. So that's 500 and this is 5. So I don't really know how that works, but it is what it is. Let's see if he rotates. So this is where we can go into the editor and change that rotation speed to 100. Alright, so that isn't working, so that's good to know. So why is that not working? Now let's go dive into that. Oops. Alright, so we got the direction is going to be, let's see, look rotation is, that's the, okay. Character model, transform that rotation, target rotation, and rotation speed. Oh god. My buddy used AI to generate a story about Pokemon. Ash Ketchum dying and Pikachu avenging him. And he's freaking texting us about it now. But yeah, let's see. So this, let's see how this is working. So cursor object, transform position minus transform that position normalized. Then we look at that direction, and then we rotate the character model towards that target location. So that's what's weird, is that should be kind of the general concept programmatically, because the target is a game object, and this cursor is actually a game object right here. So rotating, like he's rotating towards that game object. So what's confusing to me is maybe I'm gonna go in here and actually set this rotation speed to 500, because that's what this is at. Maybe that's what it needs to be. Nope. So that is interesting. Zombo is the character model. So what happens if I rotate the character model like that? No, that works. Huh. So now this is where it's like, Let's see, how are we handling it? Rotation speed, target rotation. Target to transform that position. Oh! I'm an idiot. You know why I'm an idiot? Because we weren't calling it ever. Oh my god. This is programming 101 right here. Forgetting to implement everything. Okay, so maybe... Okay, so we're gonna go back here, and he set the 5 still. Now this is how using the inspector is actually very nice, because we can adjust that rotation speed while the game's going. I will say in Unity? Oh, of course, because the target's not real. Yeah. That's always fun. So yeah, it's looking like his rotation's very slow, so if we dial this up to 500, then if I run away, now he's rotating towards us, which is actually perfect. It looks a little weird. Of course, like as I'm walking like this, I guess. I'm just not used to this isometric view. But yeah, now he's rotating. That's very fun. That's always... It's great when you forget things, because then you get to laugh at yourself. So we're just gonna... This is also gonna have to be the same if target does not equal null, just so that we don't get those errors. So yeah, there we go. We're handling the movement, handling rotation. So next up on the agenda, I guess, is to really set up our animator. Get the guy kind of moving around. So this asset I downloaded for free. I can try to find that for you if you're interested in that. He came with a good bit of animation, so we have attacks like this, bites, let's see, a headbutt. There's a lot of good animations. I don't think I'm going to use all of it, but for instance, we have a running crawl, T-poses, and a walk. So this is going to be our basic thing. So we're going to have him walking like that, and there's also even 2 walks, which that's even more sloppy. We could even set up other things where it changes back and forth between animations, but I'll show you how animators kind of work real quick. Let's see, is there an idle? Yes. So what we're going to do is go into our prefab and aggressive NPCs. I'm going to make a folder for basic zombie and drag him in there. And we're just going to create animator controller. We're going to call this basic zombie anim controller. Unity has a pretty fleshed out animator controller thing. So if we go here, now if we double tap that, we're in our animator controller. So what can we do here? Well, with our model, they actually came with pre-made animations, thank God. We can drag our idle in there, and we'll just drag in our walk. Okay? Over on this side, we have parameters. You have layers and parameters. So these can kind of get very complex if you go look up on the internet or anywhere. Most complex Unity animator system, it can start looking crazy. But for now, we're gonna use the animator as our animator controller. And eventually I'll probably have to move over to the script, but that could be years down the line. So basically, on entry, on us pressing play, our object's gonna move to idle because that is our base. That's what that yellow kind of is. So what we're gonna wanna do is create a Boolean parameter. We're gonna just call this is moving. All right, so very simple, make a transition. And our condition is if moving is true and is moving is false. So basically, here's what the transition will look like. One thing I think we're going to want to do is we're not going to want to have exit time right here. And we'll have a transition duration. Because having an exit time was causing some really finicky things with the player. What exit time means is it's going to finish playing the animation it was currently. So imagine if the zombie started moving around, he would have to finish that idle animation while moving to move to walking. Yeah, exactly. Visual scripting and such is pretty good. Unreal Engine actually has a very good visual scripting thing, and I think Unity actually just like had that now it's fleshed out something. I'm using Unity 6 right here. But it's very easy to work with the animator, at least at a small scale. You can see all these animations right here, so I want you to imagine me just dragging all these in here and then creating a parameter for each one. So for instance, if we want to go look at this, here is the, you can see how it can start escalating really quickly. Here is the player's animator controller. So we start at idle, but if we are moving, then we move to walk. But if we are idle and we're moving and running, then we go to run. And it keeps cycling from there. You can use this any state thing to make anything go from any state, so that's how I'm handling the attacks. So for instance, if we have a trigger condition, so triggers, when you set a trigger in program, like in your program, in your script, it's going to fire that and then turn it off again. So instead of like having to switch on and switch off the bool, then it's just going to trigger that. So that from any state, the trigger for having a fire and a weapon equipped, not a weapon equipped, goes to a punch. A fire and a weapon equipped goes to a sword slash. So the more animations you get, the more complex it's going to get. And also, for instance, eventually we might have to do some backtracking, like if I'm pressing like back, like we have our joystick or we're pressing S or the back arrow, we're going to have to maybe have like another animation for that. So that's where it can really start getting larger in scope. But for now, it's accomplishing our purposes, and we just want to keep moving forward, because the more we move forward, the, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Trying to get too philosophical. Let's get back to it. So, if we go back to Zombo, we got idle to walk. So basically, this transition is going to look like this. If we fast forward it. There you go. He's going to start walking. One way we can do that is in the script. So we already have access to our animator because we're using the same similar like general layout as the player controller. So what we can do is in fix update. So if target does not equal null, rb.position is equal to our vector 3. So else rb.position, we're just going to set that to vector 3.0 for now. That vector 3.0 is basically the same thing as pressing 0, but a vector 3 in Unity looks kind of like this. It's just like 3 numbers like that. So that would be vector 3. So in here, what I like to do is we'll go ahead and go through this private, and we'll go protected bool is moving. So there we go. So what we'll do is in here is set is moving is equal to false if we're not moving, else is moving is equal to true. So right now we'll always have a target and we're always moving. So if we are moving, then we set that equal to true. Another way to do this in here is we're going to just have a handle animations. I actually did not set this up in the player controller, but because here's how you actually handle animations. You can set the bool like that. But I'm actually going to write a different function because I like having these different functions, kind of like the layout of this. So we're basically just going to set animator dot set, not bone location, boolean, and then we're going to just do, we called it is moving, and we're going to set it to that state. Because you never know, we might need to like have an is moving variable or something somewhere else. For instance, this is attacking. And sometimes instead of having this fire, I could have a boolean setting is attacking. But we don't want to like only set it in the animator. We want to set it in a state so that I can like check if we're attacking or not in that. So that's just my preferred way. You can actually even get an animator.getBool and it'll get that value, but just for now, that's what we're going to do. So right now, how this is working is we go, every fixed update, we're going to handle the movement, handle the rotation, and handle the animations. Starts at the handle movement, so we're going to walk towards that position if we have a target. If we don't, then our position's 0. We're not going to move. Eventually, this is going to do move towards goal. Then we're going to handle rotation. If we have a target, then we're going to rotate towards that target. And then afterwards, if we are moving, we're going to set our animator's parameter is moving to what is moving is, which will be set to true if we are moving. So here you can see that in action. Let's go ahead and try this on out. Oh, one thing I am forgetting is that is moving. I don't know if it's defaultly set. Yes. So that's where I think I might have just broke something. Wait a second. Why did he disappear is my question. So what we're going to do is moving. On start, we're going to set is moving is equal to false because we didn't actually automatically set that. But now that does beg the question, why did he disappear? So for that, luckily Unity, you can do other little game windows like such. I like having it to the side like this for when we're looking at. So this is our game view, this is our scene view. So let's see what happens when we press play. So we're going to be watching right here. So he disappeared. So why do we think that is? Is it because armature.idle? Where did you go, guy? Oh, I'm an idiot, of course. So actually, just to explain real quick, what I was doing is changing his position to 0, 0, 0. So for instance, in player controller, I'm actually setting his linear velocity up here to 0. So that's where that came from, but not his position. So linear velocity is just going to be a force applied to it. So, you know, just like in physics, like we're basically like pushing the object when we apply linear velocity to it. But with rb.position, it's basically just moving the rigid body's actual position. So if he doesn't have a target, we were putting his position at 0. So we're just gonna actually remove that line. That's always fun. Yeah, it's all good. Those little hiccups, they're like, I'm just like if you want to stick around and watch me, you might gotta get used to him because I am not always the best. But so instance, we see our zombie right here. He is now in idle. He's in his idle state. Okay, one thing I just noticed, because we obviously probably do want this, is in these animations, if we go here, actually, go here. So in our import settings, we can see the actual controlling of the animations. So this is not defaultly set, but we actually want to set this to have a loop time. This will mean that it will keep looping over and over again. So we want to do the same thing with walk, and same thing with walk 2. And running crawl, we want that. Scream, we don't. Hit reaction, no. Die to, crawl, yes. So yeah, that's one thing with working with animations and importing. You got to make sure you go through and set everything up right. For instance, that idle animation just played once, it's not going to keep repeating because it didn't have a loop time. So we're going to save that. So yeah, now you can see he is looping on through with that. So if we go over to the game window, and we can see he starts slowly rotating because we didn't save that, what's it called? That movement speed to 500. Not 5,000, 500. And yeah, one thing I did see was him jolting a little bit. So that's gonna be, we'll definitely got to see what's up with that. It could be have to doing with the animation. Okay, yeah, he's jolting backwards. Let's see if that has to do with his position. So we're gonna do. No, I think that has to do with the animation. Maybe. Let's see. Yep, that is... So it does seem that this zombie object has a weird animation. So what about walk 2? No. So for instance, if I look at the humans, let's say just walking animation, he walks in place like this. So that will apply it. But actually this Zombo has some weird animations. So what we're gonna do instead is, Mr. Zombo, I'm sorry, but you can't be around anymore. Boom. And actually what we're gonna do is we're gonna drag the same model. I'm gonna add a animator to this and set that animator to the basic zombie anim controller. And we gotta delete these. And one other thing I'm gonna do is, so this is, he needs to be scaled down to the same size. But another thing we're gonna do is go to here, and actually this could be good because it makes things look around the same. So if we go to base human, I'm gonna drag the skin color, or actually drag that onto him. So now he's green. Bam, zombie. Okay, I'm okay with that, especially for now. I eventually probably yeah, exactly. So they're just a little more green. Eventually, I'll probably do a stream showcasing Blender. I don't know if you've heard of it before. It's like a 3D modeling software. It's free. I'm not really a 3D artist or anything. I will make some models myself for the game, but eventually I probably will have to license some or commission some, which that is way further down the line. So yeah, we're gonna go back to our animator here. I'm gonna redock the game, and we're just gonna simply drag, walk, and idle. And here's how you set the default state, like that. And we're just gonna go back to doing the same exact thing, like so. So it's moving true. and it's moving is false. So this is what his, okay. Remove the exit times. I always forget to do that. Always causes a nice little headache. Yeah, dude. Oh, great. Something's, a little up here. Melee zombie controller doesn't exist anymore? What do you mean? Oh. There we go. We're missing a game object. Yeah. It's always something, dude. There's always something. It's gonna just, like, be a little wrong. But, who knows? Alright, so now there we go. Now he's walking exactly like us. And he'll rotate towards us. And now it actually looks like, actual object. I mean, it's a little weird because he's copying us, but, like, so. But, you know what, whatever. So next up, we're gonna punch him. We're gonna activate punching. So, let's see, what's next on our list? So, what I'm gonna do for having... Yeah, exactly. I actually, you know what? I'm definitely now throwing that then there as a little Easter egg. I'll have a little guy to do that. That's funny. That walk was really menacing too. He was like, I have to get to you. Okay, so next up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create an empty object. And this, so we have our aggro zone, and we're gonna have our attack zone. So this is how I've handled, making the enemies attack before. So basically, what I'm actually gonna do is move him, not that, we wanna move him on over towards the player. And get down like that. And you will see why in a second. So here we go, and let's look at this animation right here. So there we go, he's not moving too much. And if we go to punch, that is how far his reach extends. So in here we're actually going to make a box collider. And we're gonna wanna pick this bad boy up. And we are actually, now that I think about it, no, I think because if the zombie's attacking, so here's my thought process right now, is this collider right here, once the player enters this, we're going to do the same thing as the aggro zone and basically send the signal to our zombie controller script. That the signal, basically, you're attacking right now. Like, you are, like, you're trying to, like, switch the animation to punching and some other things that I'll show you very shortly. So yeah, we'll make this. So I'm now debating. No, we want him facing, because we could make it to where if someone enters his attack zone, he'll rotate towards that object. And then start attacking, but he was already rotating towards his target, so I don't think so. So I think what we need is actually just a little attack zone like this. So this is where I was bringing the player, because we kind of want to gauge what area he wants to attack. So the fist, I think, comes out to around here. I believe so. So we want his aggro zone, or his attack zone, to be around the same length. We probably want it a little smaller, because if we move out of the zone, so yeah. So there is his attack zone. So what we're going to do is set up a tag. We're going to do, not aggro zone, we're going to do attack zone. And we're going to tag that. And the layer is going to be detection layer, like so. So that's why we have the layers and tags. So we can mask the layers and then we can use the tags to select our specific things if we want to go about that way. I'm going to drag him away. Nope, not that. I'm going to drag our guy away now. Like so. Oh, yep, there we go. So he's outside. So now we have our attack zone. So what we're going to want to do is make another script. And instead of aggro zone, we're going to do attack zone. Okay. And the attack zone is probably going to be more specific to melee zombies. Because ranged zombies, once they enter the aggro zone, we're probably just going to immediately start attacking. At least for now. In some of these lounge streams coming up, I probably might play some single-player games, like Project Zomboid and maybe Hades, and see how other enemies interact, like ranged enemies interact and such. But for now, we're just gonna go like so. Part of doing game dev and such is it's kind of cool because like you get to play games, but sometimes you can classify it as researching for your game because you kind of like you're building your own unique thing, but it's completely okay to just go around and like check out how other people do it and build off of that. Now, of course, don't copy other people like full on, but don't be afraid to be inspired by things. So here we go, attack zone. Basically, pretty simple. We're just gonna go into aggro zone. Oh, forgot, just moved all of everything. So let me go through and see which ones. Yeah, so that's the one thing when you're working in Unity like that. If you move the locations, your Visual Studio will not update as well. So I can go into aggro zone here, and basically what we're gonna do is the exact same thing. In fact, we probably could have just attached the aggro zone, but the attack zone. Oh yeah, no, we definitely did need another thing, because instead of this in zombie controller, let me pull that up because that was one of the scripts I moved as well. Zombie controller, I'm gonna do another protected boolean is attacking. So yeah, there we go. So we're gonna go back to attack zone, and we'll just do is attacking. So that's where, yeah. Just for the own sake of how I like doing things, since this is being interacted with not children, I'm gonna go back to here and do a public boolean is attacking. We're going to do a getter, and that's just return is attacking, not is moving. And, okay, guys, like so, and setter is attacking is equal to value. And of course, this is, what's it called? This is how, setting up the blanking again. This is just my preferred way of doing it. In fact, I kind of want to clean this up and not have so much space, because you can, of course, just do it like this as well. It just makes it a little bit more readable, a little more compact, but I do like using these getters and setters. Especially because in some cases, you can actually set up like a custom setter. So let's say this target, if the target, like if we wanted to have like specific targets and such, we could even check it in that setter. And if it's not, then we don't set it. So it's just good for good practice, I guess, for like protecting your objects and such, and you know exactly how it's working. So now we got is attacking is equal to true. Now this is the real main one, is private void on trigger, not on animator, on trigger, yeah, on trigger exit, collider, other. Yeah, no, I like. I actually never before Unity and all that. I didn't even know about getters and setters, but it's pretty cool to work with because, for instance, if I go to their damageable component and this health, instead of having a math f function like this, a math f function math like this, I could actually even set that in the health to where it will never go below 0. But for now, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to focus on this. So we're just basically going to go copy this. So on trigger exit is basically when colliders exit the trigger. So instead, we're just going to set this to false. And next up, what we're going to do is go back to our melee zombie controller. So if target is sequable and not is attacking, because we do not want to be moving while we're attacking. We do want to rotate when we're attacking. So, and then handle, and where do I work, by the way? So I work for a small startup company. I can't really disclose the name of it, and it's not actually a full-time gig. Kind of really what I've been doing. Like, it's kind of like an as-need by basis kind of thing. So they'll reach out to me, and I'll do something, and then get paid for those hours. But other than that, if they don't have any work for me, I don't do it. So I DoorDash usually at night, like doing like online deliveries, kind of supplements the income. But right now, I am currently living at home, just chilling, moving along. Oh, the job? Yeah, so it's working with technology. It's an engineering job. I'll do a little bit of programming, research into technology using open source software. There's a good bit of stuff. I can't really go into details, though, about that. So now we're going to set the Boolean here. Is attacking is equal to is attacking. Yeah, so I'm actually, I am in also the process of like applying jobs too. I'm applying software engineering jobs, junior levels, but I know over here it's pretty rough actually. Junior engineers, really hard to find a job, especially in the area I'm in. It's more or less not meant for juniors. It's meant for more experienced professionals, but keeping trucking along and hopefully get a job. If that is the case, I would move these streams and working on the game back a little bit later in the day. Actually, I would probably actually move it back to starting in like an hour and 30 minutes, like so, and then work for 3 hours, kind of. So basically, yeah. So in the morning, wake up, do some apply to jobs, do some stuff I need to do. I'll hop on, work on this if I don't have actual work to do. And later at night, probably play some video games. I will say, if you are interested in watching the lounge portion, which that's kind of playing video games and just hanging, my buddies can be a little bit crazy and they can say some stuff that's not going to be at all like this. But, oh, it's nighttime for you right now? Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of later in the day here, but still sun out right now. So we got a good bit work left in the working day. But so right now I'm kind of just trying to work on this as much as possible while I wait for like a real full-time gig, and then hopefully get a bunch of the core established, and then can come home after work one day and just work on some specific niche. I am hoping to have the proof of concept for this game out in a year's time. Basically, maybe next halfway through January. Oh yeah. Sometimes, like, there's only 2 VODs on my channel. I had to delete a few of them because I was like, you guys can't be doing that. So luckily right now, I mean, we're really small, but if the community starts picking up and like-minded, friendly people, some of the things are just gonna have to, it's all fun. It's always fun in games, though. Like, always fun in games. Just trying to make each other laugh, and it's always fun. We've actually been playing Sea of Thieves recently. I don't know if you've played that. It's really fun. Probably be playing that tonight or some other competitive game. But yeah, definitely go check out the highlights video if you're interested in seeing kind of what that portion is. I used to put the 18 plus check mark on those videos, but then I looked at the actual like description for it, and it was actually like really hardcore. CFEs? Oh no, Sea of Thieves. The pirate game. Let me see if I can pull that up for you. Yeah, Sea of Thieves. This one. Kind of go around in a boat, just live as a pirate in a way. Yeah. That was actually our first time playing it. Was 2 or 3 days ago, and yeah, we streamed it all live. We had a guy who's an expert on the game basically show us the ropes. He took us to the end-game area, like where the Athena's Forge is, and oh yeah, it's definitely a very interesting, exciting game. We had a Megalodon and like a skeleton ship pull up us all at once while we were interacting with our first actual other players in the game, and we went on like a raid with them for like 2 hours, like helped them do like in-game content, and then we sailed to port and they sold everything for themselves and then left us. Like, we're oblivious to what's going on. They left us and just started blowing up our ship. So I definitely recommend checking out the highlights video. I think it's personally really funny, but of course, like, I lived through it and I was laughing at it, but it's kind of like you can kind of see the shenanigans that can go on in that. But yeah, let's go back to making our attack work. If you are curious about what I'm trying to get done in the stream, let me pull this up on my other side. It's right here. I'm trying to do the basic zombie. So here's a little hint, actually, for the game. It's a Waffle House arcade game. And we have, like, some waffles and such. That's kind of, like, the design of the game. But we have a basic zombie, basic movement, basic AI. I wanted to get to Nav Mesh, but I don't think I'm going to be getting that today, and basic combat. So, basically, we have done the basic movement. The basic AI is kind of done, because that's just literally going to be us moving and attacking. And now we're working on the basic combat. So actually, what I'm going to do is Control X that, move that, and that's going to be the goal for the next stream. Navmesh navigation for enemies. Like so. So yeah, and also down here, the real design of the game is going to still like have the aspect of 2D isometric kind of like format, but we're manipulating it in a 3D space. So if you stick around, you'll be able to try to see me figure out how to do that, because that's something I've looked into and there's no real help. Yeah, actually, absolutely. So if you look at the game dev video, basically how I kind of try to push people to go make their own games is I say, if you have this grand idea for a game or some imitation game you want to make or somewhat, go write that down and then put it aside and go make little small projects. And then once you feel comfortable coming back to it, come back to it. So I'm kind of at that comfortable stage of coming back to that. But of course, I've only ever dabbled with the basics in these games. But I will say one thing I specifically remember from my college level game development class is our professor, what he said is making games isn't too hard. It's just a lot of time and a lot of work. You'll be able to figure out everything eventually, but it's really just putting in that time and effort and trying to stay passionate about what you're doing. And streaming, I will say, has helped me stay passionate about it, talking it through. I'm happy you're sticking along and hope you're enjoying some of this. But yeah, let's go ahead. And so we just set it up. So set bool is attacking. That will just, the animations will be set to that state, which is controlled by this attack zone. So once we enter as a player, the is attacking will turn on. It will stop our movement, like so. and it will enable the is attacking function. So what we'll do here is go to our animator, and now we'll drag in, let's see, other models, man, and punch. So this is where I like to go to any state, and we're going to make a transition, and just anything when is attacking. Oh yeah, no, I know the feeling. It's like the most, it can be some of the most frustrating things to do, but once you do it, it's like it's just like the most rewarding feeling. I remember like in my introduction programming classes, I was walking to the professor's like help session, and like had like I was like, I have no idea how to do this, and I had an idea, and I went and elaborated with them, and he goes, oh, just wait till you start like waking up in the middle of the night, like having solutions to problems you were having. I was like, oh great, that's gonna be fun. So here we're going. So basically, if we are attacking, then we're going to play this punch animation, which, so right now, that's just going to go back and forth like that, basically, because we have, eventually, this isn't going to be the same animation, because if we go into here, we can see that punch is not set to loop, actually. I wonder if I set it to loop, but obviously, our zombie is, if we get in that attack range, we want to keep attacking over and over until we move out of it. So that's where we might see some finicky stuff with that, and of course that would be a different model with a different animation and such. But really, just with what I'm working with right now, this is how we're gonna do it. Next stream, I might even have I might go look for different models to use with pre-made animations for games and such, and maybe I'll find a different zombie one and just be able to re-implement the controller. But yep, so here we go. Is moving is false, and these conditions are pretty simple because we don't have much right now. So basically what this is we also want to disable has exit time, because any state will just immediately be interrupted. So it'll go from like that. So if we look down here, any state doesn't have an exit time or any condition, transition will be ignored. What? Now it has that. Oh, that's probably because when we created it, we didn't have that condition. So that can be a little confusing. So for instance, you can see 1620 here. It's 1623. So I always want to clear those. Okay, what was I doing? Oh yeah, back to attacking. So now if we hit play, we should see some very basic movement and such, and we should also, if we go here, so he's moving towards us, and once he gets in range, okay, doesn't look like that's working. Let's see why that is. Okay. Element controller is attacking is equal to value. Attack zone on trigger. Oh, okay, so here's another thing. We have to enable that trigger. Yeah. So colliders in Unity, they come in two forms basically. One is an actual like physics collider. That's what I'm walking on. That's the hitboxes. So we don't have things like overlapping. That's how you can like make things stand on top of stuff. And then there's the other one, which is a trigger. So the trigger is going to be our basic, like, if you get hit by it, then trigger some event. So that's basically why that wasn't working. At least it should be. So now, if we hit play again, and go on ahead, have him walk towards us. Yep, there we go. Oh, he is really beating the crap out of us. That is wild. Okay, so yeah, so that's where, I think he's going from any state. So if we actually click on the male casual, go to thing, he's actually transitioning from this own animation right here to going back all the way. So actually, right now, that's not proper, but I don't know if I want to fix that. That's kind of funny. So yeah, that's okay. So next up, what we're going to want to do... Actually, wait a second. I might already have this implemented. So we're going to go to our melee zombie controller and fix update. And in fact, this can be in our update function. So I actually think this could be in a higher level. So what we're going to do is in protected void update. So this is going to be on every frame. This is not on a fixed every frame. So this is would change based on computers and whatnot. But for this, it's okay. So we're basically just going to do if damageable dot is alive, or let's say if not damageable dot is alive, then we're just going to let's say we'll do an animator dot trigger, not we're going to do set trigger, set bool. I think this is set trigger death. This is how I handle it. You can also just turn off is alive. But this damageable component, I set this up on the early streams. This is it. It basically controls the health, the max health, and if we are alive or not. This will just be put on... Oh, you didn't switch back to running? Hold on, let me see. What? I didn't even notice that. Thanks for catching that. Let's see. So if we go over here, like that. Oh yeah, you're right. So if we can actually see what's going on here. Click him, go to that. So the transition means that is moving is true. Oh, of course it's not working because we never had a transition for is moving. So if we go back now he's back to walking. Okay. Now, one thing I will say, good reminder, is in Unity, if you set some stuff while you're playing the game, you have to make sure and that it's reset. Luckily, the animator, it does keep set. But for instance, if we were messing with these variables, we'd have to go and reset it after we stopped hitting that play button. So that was a easy fix. Thanks for that. I wouldn't have caught that for a little bit. So now we're just checking if he is alive. If he's not alive, then we're just gonna set a trigger to death. So basically, let's go in here, back to art, other models, man death, and then I remember I couldn't use any state because it would keep repeating this. So basically, we're just gonna make a transition from everything and not set that as default state. And it's as simple as adding a trigger, calling this death, and just that. Because when you hit that set trigger, that is actually just going to like enable it. It's not like a boolean, it's just going to trigger that. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and save the scene. And there's that. So next thing up we also want to do is if damageable.isAlive, we want to make sure that we're actually alive to perform everything. So that's like that. And then handle movement. Actually, we don't need to handle this inside these functions. Where we can handle it is inside here. So if damageable.isAlive, that's it. Yeah. Then else, we're going, and then else is actually in the zombie controller. So this could get a little confusing. So what we're gonna actually do is remove this from the zombie controller. And we're gonna just do an else here. Because right now this is how I'm gonna want to handle it. I might come back and change it later, but that is the beauty of programming. Alright, cool. Alright, there Cool. So now if we go here, slap him a little bit. Okay. Trying to see. So this is not working as intended. So I did set up, what's it called? These having like trigger colliders. So let's see how that's going. So we go to weapons. If layer equals. So this is where the mask was not working. For some reason. So actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set a public mask. That. And we're gonna go ahead and change this. So this is where I was trying to set it programmatically. I'm kind of going back on what I said earlier. But that was okay. We're just trying to make things work. So if we go, oh, again, where'd the weapon script go? Come on now. But here's the layer mask. You can actually check a layer for it to interact with, and we want characters, just like that. So that was working, which is interesting. So we want to make sure we hit apply all for that. Now that should have that. And damage, we're going to set that to 3. Actually, we're going to set that to 10 right now. So this is this spatula I set up earlier. So basically, this weapon, just to explain it really quick, it's a trigger. It has its own collider. This is actually similarly to what we're going to be using for the enemies. Basically, it will, on trigger enter of the actual weapon itself, its own collider, it will grab that damage roll component of the object that it collides with, and it will hit this, call this on hit function with the damage. So if we go to damageable, it will call this public void on hit, and if the object is alive, then the health is equal to the max between 0 and the current health minus its damage. We also have it on heal. So this is kind of how objects are like controlled with its health and like it's staying alive and such. And if we go to our attack animation script, so this is actually attached to the animation itself of the player attacking. So what we can do is, so on the state entering, on the state of the attack animation entering, we have this animator state info, and a layer index. Yeah, hit like that, that's probably better namesake. In fact, I'm actually going to change that. On hit was just because I think I was, so yeah, we don't want that. We want to change it like that, and change it like that. Good call. So this is the attack animation. So basically we get the game object of the animator. So this is attached to the player's animation. So if we want to look at this actually, I can go here. And on these, we can see this script called attack animation attached. So here we see on state enter, we have that animator. And then using that animator, we can get the game object, and then we can get its component, the player controller, and then set is attacking is equal to true. And then we, what's it called? We can get this slot controller. So this weapon slot controller, that's how I can switch between things. So we get that from the animator's game object and children as well. And then we can get the current weapon from that slot controller at the slot controller's index, and then we enable it. So basically, in Unity, you can enable and disable objects, so that's a little check mark right there. So if we zoom in, we can see that little collider. And actually, the box collider is disabled. Actually, so I can just enable these. That's a good call. Because we're not actually... Wait, let me... Attack animation, weapon. Yeah, I don't think we're actually... Oh, no, we are enabling the collider. Oh, wait, yeah, no. Here we go. Yeah, we're supposed to have these colliders disabled, to confuse myself. So we actually get that current weapon, which is selected and should already be equipped, and then we get its collider component that is attached to this. So that weapon, this box collider, which is a trigger, and then we enable it. So if we want to see that play out, so we'll launch this on up. So if we go to the scene, we can go here. I'll position this pretty well, and there we go. So we can look at this, and if we have the player selected, if you look at its hand, it's kind of hard to see on stream, but the outline here is actually like a different color. It's a little bit darker green. You can kind of see it at this intersection. And when I'm attacking, it turns on. So this is how, once it hits that collider, it should use its weapon controller script, this right here. See? And it should grab that components and hit the damageable object. So that's kind of where that is. Back to where we were, I forgot that that wasn't attached, so hopefully I was using the spatula to attack. Let me just make sure everything's okay. My OBS just cut on out. Are we all good? Hold on, I'm looking at the stream on YouTube. Trying to see my own thumbs up. Let's see. It says excellent connection. I think my internet might have just bugged a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay. We're back. Okay. So, here's that. Okay, appreciate it. So if we go back, we're in game. Okay. What was I doing? Yeah. Checking to make sure this works. Boop. So that does not work. So why is that? So if we go here, he is still alive, and his damageable component is not taking damage. So what we're gonna do is kind of try to figure this out. So object layer mask, game object dot get layer mask maybe. This is annoying. Alright, so we're gonna see if this works without the layer mask, because that was the problem earlier. We just want to make sure it's not the player, because you can of course interact with your own damageable component. So what we should see happen is once I smack him with the spatula, he should just flop. Yeah, I think yeah, I don't really know what's going on with the delay. It could just be how YouTube handles it, as well. I was kind of noticing that earlier. Let's see. Okay, so I'm on live. I'm gonna stick up this finger, see how this works. Yeah, so it looks like I'm on like a 30-second delay or something, with YouTube. I am over on Twitch. I don't know if it's any different there. It could just be with how the encoder's set up, sending it to a different server or something. Could also just be you are in a different country, as you were saying, so it could be that as well, but not too crazy of a delay, I hope. Alright, so let's go back to here. And smack you. Smack. So his health did go down to 0. And he is not alive. So... now what? Oh, because he still is attacking, so... What's gonna happen is... So it was the layer mask causing the issue. So now, what we're gonna do is... so is attacking is handled... Where was that? In a attack zone. So if that... So what we're gonna do is other... So zombie controller. So we're also gonna do and zombie controller dot damageable. No. So that's where we can do is make this. We don't actually want anything ever changing damageable, so we're going to do a public damageable, and we're actually going to do a get return damageable. So we're just going to be able to get that. So then we're going to do a damageable dot is alive. Alright. And we're going to have that saved as well. Because we're still in the attack zone, so that was causing some weird finicky things. Actually, we don't want this is alive, because we want it to be able to set the false, even if he's not alive. So maybe even just for simplicity's sake, and here else set trigger is death is attacking equals false. We can just always set all of our conditions, like is moving, to false as well. But that will be handled right here. Or now we'll do is moving also to false. And this namesake's not the best, of course, but whatever. Okay. We're gonna pull that out. We're gonna look at male zombie casual. We're gonna slap him. That did not fix the problem. See, so for instance, we turned off is attacking and then he died. So this does not have exit time. This does not have exit time. And this does not have exit time. Like that. So the is attacking was never being turned off. So that means... Oh, because we're not handling the animation right here. So we also want to always set... We don't actually need the alive, we just need to handle the animations, like so. So that should do it for us. Alright. So there we go. So now if we look at Mr. Male Casual and the zombie, you can see he's idling like so, and now he's moving. And if I slap him, he's dead. Nice. Quite good. Quite good. Last thing we're going to check out is... Okay, so we're getting an object not set... object reference not set to an instance of an object. So let's see where that error is coming from, too, as well. So he's attacking, and now he's walking, and now we're going to slap him. And at weapon, CS, on trigger enter. Oh, okay. So that means What? Slapping. Oh, because we're colliding with something else. See, that's where I do want the layer mask to work, but why wasn't that? Okay, so what I'm thinking is if I go ahead and pull up this, we're gonna do Unity 3D, check if collision is in a certain layer mask. Because I don't think getting that layer is right. Check if colliding with a layer. Because this is something we definitely want to be using. So if collision equals 8, check the int value in the layer manager, user predefined as 8. So that's using a number. I don't think I want to use a number. If layer mask value, okay, layer mask.value, that's probably what we want. You can use a bitwise operator. You can be able to find collisions within a with a layer mask. Years later, I'm trying this and I can't get the collision. Oh my! Seems like a lot of people are having some issues with that. Getting collision. Checking a layer is in a layer mask. Because I will say I had to get this working in the cursor object. So let's go here and in the weapon, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to putting this public. I'm going to start like that. Ooh, that got rid of. Interesting. Go back to private. And we're going to do masks equals layer mask dot get mask, and we're going to call this as characters. So this is right, because in cursor, I'm using layer mask as well here. And we're using a raycast, and it's checking if that layer is in the layer mask. So I only have the cursor attached to the ground. This is how I'm handling rotations for looking at the cursor. This actually took me a good bit to figure out, because raycast is not something I have really messed around with. Yeah, set of all collisions, we should use layer mask. So there's that. And that has a built-in, raycast has a built-in function for a layer mask. So now we're going to go back here, and we're going to go other.gameObject.layer is equal to mask.value. So that should actually fix that. Because mask is the layer mask, the value is its integer value, and that's what this is. Integer. So that was actually, of course it was never going to set correctly because of, what's it called? Because it was an integer value, so it's comparing two different things and they'll never be equal. Which, that's weird, it wasn't giving me an error. Okay, so we'll go here. Weapon, right? Characters, and we're gonna slap him. Okay. Are you not in the character layer? Oh, okay. And then of course, gotta go, I changed the layer. That's that, right? Okay. Because we only want him, of course, attacking aggressive NPCs. Oh yeah, dude, that's very rewarding. That's one thing I love about game dev is like you actually get to visually see your progress. It's of course like any other building thing in programming, you can get stuck, and I guarantee you I will be getting stuck soon. I am doing the basics of the basics, but there's also a bunch of tedious stuff as well, like UI. I have to build all the UI, build custom scripts for that, make everything interactable. But right now, pretty fun. All right, come on. Hello, slap. Okay, so we're going to aggressive NPC. That's spelled right? aggressive NPC. Yeah. So we're gonna just do a debug.log other dot gameObject.layer plus that debug, thank you, debug.log mask.value. I'm gonna put in a mask like that. Okay, so this is starting to give me a headache because see, this is the part right here that can get a little finicky for sure. Okay, so we go here and we slap him. We got attack zone, and we got zombie, and mask is 1024. And it's 10, so look at that. So if we look at here, zombie and the mask, it's completely different. Also, what's going on with the attacking? Why did you stop? Okay. It's very interesting. So the mask.value converts the layer mask value to an integer. So mask dot equals get type to string value. Alright, well, for a fix right now, we can see this is layer 10, so is equal to 10. Actually, even better coding practice, of course, is going to be let's have a layer mask, which is do a private int, and we're going to call this private static. Aggressive NPC layer equals 10, and we're just gonna put this right here. Alright. Oh, did not mean to do that. Let's go back to Unity. So now, since we're hard coding it, I didn't want to do it that way because it felt nicer to be using like interactions between setting layers and stuff, but hard coding this, I don't see too much issues with it in the future, as like we'll set every aggressive NPC to the layer. So bam, that works out. Okay, that is nice and debugged. We'll go ahead and remove these debug messages because if you leave those in, it can start getting really clustered. Okay, so let's see. Now, the last thing I will say that I want to do, so go here. I do have death in here for the player. So the last thing we need to do, we're going to go dock the game again. Go to the scene. Come over to their zombie. And if we're going to need to basically make the zombie have a weapon. So I know for the zombie he's going to be able to attack some other things. So basically what we're going to do is with his animation kind of do the same thing right here with the weapon slot. So this is so that the actual game object moves with the animation, because I don't know if you know how animations work, but basically you give the model, which this is the model, a armature, which is basically a bunch of bones. And then you can move it. The armature gets associated with the mesh itself. And that bone is tied to the specific portion. For instance, like there might be a hand bone, so that would be tied to the specific. And that's moving those bones is how you actually create animations. So we go up to hips, abdomen, the torso, and we're literally just going down the same exact route because it's the same exact animation. Middle hand, and then fingers are and this is where I created the empty. So we create an empty, and we're just going to create a we don't have to do weapon slot. We're going to call this a melee hitbox. So there we go. So basically, it's literally going to be kind of a verbatim copy of this. So we're going to add a script. We're going to call this a melee NPC attack hitbox. Long name for a script, I know, but kind of it does explain exactly what it is. So it always pulls up, but it never actually, what's it called? It never actually pulls up the actual script. So I'm gonna go back and of course put this back in their scripts folder. There we go. And we're gonna literally just copy this, pull this bad boy up, and paste that in there. And we're not gonna have this because we only want the tag to actually be equal to new player right now. And we're gonna put a nice little public insert damage, and we're gonna set that equal to 1. So now it's just basically verbatim kind of a copy of this minus the layer mask, because we didn't need to use a layer. We're gonna go ahead and save that. And next up, what we need to do in this melee hitbox is go here, add a component, and we're gonna do a box collider, which for some reason is completely massive. That's okay. We're gonna go 0.3 here, 0.3, 0.3. Still very massive. We're gonna do 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Just make it manageable for us. We're gonna really just shrink it down to his hand. Like so. And the reason why the collider was so big, if you were wondering, is because the model is actually huge in itself. I have it scaled down right there, but the collider doesn't really know that, so yeah. I probably have to scale things better in the future, but if we do this like so, we have a little attack zone box on his fist. So that's where I don't know exactly design how well this is going to work. Eventually I'm going to have to replace this hitbox, because we're going to have a different, what's it called? A different, like, actual animation and such, but this is how I'm handling these and such. So we have that hitbox, and it has to be the player that actually gets hurt, which it has its own damageable component. So if I hit play, we're going to actually just let the zombie kill us to make sure everything's working. Alright. 1, 2, 3, ow, 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 ow. Let's see. Is our damageable going down? Nope. Okay, so that was interesting. Oh, here we go. It needs to be set to trigger. And again, we need to turn off the box collider. We need to do the exact same thing. So here we're going to go into male casual. For him, punch, we're going to add a attack animation script. And let's see where that is. So this is a player attack animation. So we need to actually just remove this one, add behavior. We're going to do a enemy attack animation. Cause load does that every now and then. Okay, so we got this pulled on up. We're going to just copy this on over. And paste that. And instead, game object, we're going to get a zombie controller. And this is where having the actual component-based stuff is going to come in handy. So we actually don't want animator get component and children. We don't want that. We're going to actually... Because I remember you can't actually interact with it. Like, let me think. Like, can't interact with it like I have it here. You can't drag over a object, turn on and off, like so. So what we can do is be a little finicky here. So I'm gonna just, is attack equals true? So no, this is, wait, what? Hold on. Yeah, because we need to enable the collider basically. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do basically this animator game object dot get component. Okay, so this is the thing right here. Okay, I can see how I can do this. I don't know if this is the best way, but what we're gonna do is like so. Go here. And we're gonna have a public game object. Let's call this melee. Okay, never mind. You know what we're gonna do instead? We're gonna do this over here. Do a public game object melee attack hitbox, like so. And in here, I'm gonna do that. We're gonna do a melee zombie controller. This will get all of our zombie controller stuff, and our melee zombie controller stuff. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get dot melee attack hitbox dot get component. This is a lot, I know, but it's gonna be okay. And then we're gonna do enabled dot. How did I do this? Enabled equals true. Dot enabled equals true. And copy that on over. Equals false. Enemy attack animation probably wasn't the best name. Probably have to rename this. Enemy melee attack animation. Just breaking it down. Okay, what is going on here? Override. Why? Oh, that's why class isn't ended, of course. Ooh, I'm getting a little tired. I've been working on this for about 3 hours now. Jeez. But I want to see this work. It does not have a definition for meta. Oh, I need to save this bad boy. Okay. We're gonna go to zombie, and if we go to melee attack hitbox, here you go. So these are from zombie controller, and this is from specifically the melee attack hitbox. So that's why Yeah, dude, I agree. I'm getting a little tired as well. So, just finishing up here. If I am correct, this should turn on when he's attacking. Basically, whenever he does this, it will enable and then disable over and over. So, this will be the last thing I'm doing today for sure. But if you enjoyed, I definitely hope I can see you around next time. Yeah. Alright. Bang, 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 bang. Let's see. Health going down. Oh, we died! There we go! I was trying to check our health, but it doesn't really matter. And yeah, so there we go. Of course, our collider's still there because the animation is the only one that it happened to, but yeah. For now, I think that's good. Sweet. Okay, cool. Well, I think I'm going to end it there. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Hope helped you out. Appreciate you helping me out as well, catching some things. Hope to see you around next streams, next time in the lab. Yeah, I like to say a little closing thing on all my videos. Just remember, the good is out there. It's just one step away. Take care, man. You have a good one.